Hello, my name is Jason Ankin and this is my vlog channel. Today's video is about the difference between spiritual achievement and personal achievement. This is an idea that I've been playing around with in my own head. What's more important, spiritual achievement or personal achievement? Is it more important to give your time, effort and energy towards spiritual development, or is it better to give your time, effort and energy towards personal achievement? Now the two are somewhat opposing each other. One, you could say, is not of this world. Spiritual achievement is seen somewhat beyond the material world, whereas personal achievement is very much grounded in reality. Now, what is spiritual achievement, for example? Well, a really good explanation you probably already know through sort of mainstream media and stuff. You will have just found out. Good example I can think of is if you imagine a Buddhist monk who sort of renounces all, gives up all of their worldly pleasures, puts on a robe, goes to move and live in a sangha, which is like the Buddhist, it's like a Buddhist sort of monastery or temple, and basically they just spend like 6 hours a day meditating, reading Buddhist literature, discussing, talking about Buddhism, doing charitable work, spreading sort of compassion and peace and stuff like that. And that's sort of really what, on the extreme side of spiritual achievement, what it really is. And obviously there's different variations of this. You've got different spiritual systems. You've got Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Taoism. You even got the New Age movement, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, why am I interested in spiritual achievement, first and foremost? Well, because I've been reading, personally I've been reading, you could say, religious philosophy for about 9 to 10 years now. And I've done a video, a blog in the past on my meditation practice. I've been meditating for nearly 5 years. And sometimes I question, what I'm doing in my day-to-day life and whether this is actually holding me back from reaching higher states of like spiritual awareness. Now, what do I mean by this spiritual awareness? It's sort of at a very basic level, from what I've learned about spirituality and religion. It essentially centers around this one theory, and that is that you are a microcosm within a macrocosm. You're basically like a mini universe within a large universe. Now this is a good sort of analogy is sort of like you're like a drop in the ocean. If you were to extract a drop of water from the ocean, it contains all of the properties of the ocean, yet it's like the ocean, but it's not the ocean. And it's sort of, that's how I would see sort of spiritual development, is that the realization that you are within a universe and the universe is within you at the same time. So there's this sort of interconnectivity that you almost can't deny. It's both intuitive and rational. It makes perfect sense. We know, even through science and stuff like that, that we're made up of the elements of nature. We're made up of like cells. We're made up of chemicals and stuff like this, and these are part of the universe because the universe produced them. Elements came out of the stars. Like stars are they were the things that actually created They were the things that actually created all of the elements, and we're made up of them. So we are literally made out of stardust, and this is a scientific fact. At a very we're basically made out of photons as well. So light photons. We are literally bodies of light, and this is not BS. This is true. This is factual. I even remember watching a documentary with Brian Cox, and he said this exact thing, that we are literally stardust. So it's to me, spiritual awareness is having that realization that you're part of something bigger than yourself. Now, the idea behind spiritual sort of achievement is sort of it's really, you have a very small window of opportunity, a very, very small window of time. Now, in that window of time, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to understand all of reality, including all of the universe and all of nature. However, it's much more rational to assume that you may have a better shot at understanding yourself. Now, by default, because you are part of the universe, if you get a really, really in-depth understanding of yourself, then you can take your awareness and you can scale it up. And essentially, by understanding yourself, you can learn more about the nature of reality, if you want to call that God, if you want to call it the universe. I like the term just calling it nature, is trying to understand. If you imagine sort of like you're a lesson and you're trying to learn about yourself, you're trying to learn about nature by understanding yourself. And that's how I see sort of spiritual achievement. Now, this is done through, you can do this on a very extreme way. Different spiritual systems, things like Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism are all good examples, where you take up a system of training almost. And this is what I sort of realized, that spirituality is less a belief system, and it is more actually a methodology. It is something that you actively do. You're actively attempting to perfect yourself. And this is where you have systems like yoga and things like Tai Chi, Qigong, in Buddhism, the Noble Eightfold Path. These are systems, very intensive, long-term systems that you can use to basically perfect yourself and purify yourself. Now, there are slightly different theories to each sort of system, to each system that you should. There are slightly different objectives, but the overall goal is the same. It's really to know yourself, to understand yourself and how you relate to the greater whole. Now, personal achievement is a little more easier to understand because we see it every day. We see it on the mainstream media, we see it on social media, we see it in magazines, newspapers, etc. It's sort of things like, for example, like an inventor invents something new that changes the world, or a scientist comes up with a new theory that again changes how we see everything in nature, or maybe a technological, someone like Bill Gates creates the Microsoft software and computer and stuff, or Steve Jobs creates his iPhone. Usain Bolt smashes all the world records. It's much more easier to understand what personal achievement really is. It's much more tangible. Maybe it's even to do with like gaining a huge amount of wealth. And sort of, because I've been reading spiritual philosophy for a long time and I've been practicing meditation, I've experienced some of these sort of spiritual highs and mystical experiences, and it does change you. It changes how you perceive the world, how you interact with the world, on how you think, how you feel, how you behave, how you interact with other people. You know, how you see what's going on around you. Your whole perception of reality begins to change. Whereas spiritual achievement is really about, the way that I see it, it's about having a successful career, you know, maybe having the nice house that you want, or doing something that benefits the world. And it's the idea of, is it more important to throw yourself completely into your spiritual training, or is it more important to sort of go out and achieve something in the world? And I've always had this, just recently, maybe over the last couple of 3-4 months, I've started to really sort of play with this idea in my head. What's more important? You know, should I just give up my HND and just, I don't know, find a caravan and just meditate and just, I don't know, eat a healthy diet and just live a really, really simple diet, or a really, really simple life? Or should I aim to set up a 6-figure business, get the degree, get the master's degree, you know, become a world-renowned sort of coach, that I'm known all over the place as sort of, you know, what is sort of, where should you go? And most people would probably say that maybe you should sort of try and combine them or integrate them together in some way, shape or form, but one seems to contradict the other. If I'm studying my degree, and my degree is sports science, I'm keeping myself in a very rational state all of the time, and I'm doing a lot of work. I'm giving up a lot of mental, emotional and physical energy into completing my degree. And I sort of wonder to myself, if I just finished after my HND, it would be like a weight off my shoulders, and I would be able to spend more time maybe traveling, focusing on my health, focusing on my well-being, just sort of, again, spending more time just sort of relaxing and sort of thinking about life, and sort of more leisure time, hanging about with friends who are also sort of this way inclined, and sort of talking about philosophical ideas and stuff like that? Or should I just finish the degree, and it almost blocks me from sort of these other sort of philosophical type, spiritual type things? It sort of gets in the way. And one of the interesting things that I started to sort of, I heard, that was literally the other day, and it was a shocking thing to hear for the first time, and it was sort of like, if we take two people, like one like Bill Gates, richest man in the world, Mother Teresa, I believe she won the Nobel Peace Prize for all the charitable work that she did. You know, who would you say is, who has done more good in the world? And intuitively you would instantly start to think, well, maybe Mother Teresa's done more good because she won the Nobel Peace Prize for all of her charity work. And Bill Gates hasn't done as much good because he's just a sort of technology tycoon, and he's kind of selfish because he's got all of this money to himself and stuff like this. But one of the things that I heard is actually that Bill Gates has actually done more charitable work for the world than Mother Teresa, and this is actually this is a fact. I don't have the actual numbers. I don't know how much charity work he's done. It was just something, a YouTube video. It was a debate that was going on a YouTube video, and this, I think his name's Ben Sapiro. He's a big sort of debater in America, and he basically just floored somebody by just bringing a statistic up, and it was a shock to me as well that you would never sort of think that sort of someone like Bill Gates has actually done more charity than Mother Teresa. And it's sort of that idea that, you know, are these spiritual people, even though they give off the impression that it's almost like they're marketing and selling themselves in, I'm compassionate, I'm peaceful, I want good in the world, but practically speaking, you know, individuals who are actually super successful, who have a lot of very well-known people, very popular, they're actually perfectly poised. You know, someone who is so well marketed, like you can think of names like I said, Bill Gates is a good example. What's his name? Richard Branson, Cristiano Ronaldo, Usain Bolt. These names are just known. These actually have a much better standing or a much better position to actually positively influence the world. More so than even many spiritual leaders, because of the way people think today and the way that sort of the mainstream media is sort of set up, we always hear about these super successful people because they're very exciting individuals, but it's sort of, you know, does that then mean that maybe these spiritual gurus and spiritual leaders, maybe they're not as they mean well and their heart's in the right place, obviously, but they're obviously not, you know, getting as much done as people who are not as spiritual in some respects. Now I know obviously there are examples of like, for example, like Gandhi. He was a really good spiritual leader. He did something that was massive, and that was obviously, you know, like freeing India from the British rule or whatever. But it's sort of, it's an interesting it's a conflict in my mind. I'm sort of thinking about, do I just put all my time, effort and energy into just achieving goals and just focus on my degree, focus on my business, focus on my fitness training, and just maybe just leave the philosophy and sort of off to the side because it's just less practical? Or alternatively, do I go down the spiritual route and sort of maybe, I wouldn't see myself as being an individual that would sort of go full monk. I don't think I would go full monk because I think that's also very unnatural. But the idea of maybe, I love the idea of living in a caravan. I think that's such a cool idea that you could, like, you know, if I aim to run a digital business, and all I would need is a Wi-Fi connection, and I can have my business anywhere in the country, and I could literally, you know, move to a caravan site in a really nice location right by the ocean, forest, mountain area, right in nature, really simple life. Not a, you know, it wouldn't cost a lot, wouldn't be a lot of maintenance in order to look after a place like that, and just hop around the UK maybe every 3 months, change location. To me that's such a cool idea. Or alternatively, I can go for the sort of metropolitan lifestyle where I can sort of get the degree, set up the business, move into Belfast City, work like 70 hours a week and just sort of kill it kind of thing. And I'm sort of conflicted with the idea of what to do. Now most people would say probably find a balance between the two. And I think probably that's the most rational answer. You know, continue doing your meditation training, continue sort of, I guess, reading your religious philosophy, try to live a more simple life, you know, don't be like, don't be greedy, don't, you know, do things for the community and stuff, like help people out there less fortunate than you. While also running a business, while also getting your degree and stuff like that. And it's just sort of a bit of an issue that I have right now, because it's sort of, I find that my achievement goals tend to be somewhat detrimental to my spiritual growth and my spiritual achievement, because it's so sapping on your energy. It drains your mental, emotional and physical energy. Like last night I got home from work and I was so tired I didn't even want to meditate, and so I didn't. Whereas that could have been a really important session for me had I not been working. I had been more rested and ready to do that meditation session. It could have been really beneficial to me, but you can see how it sort of conflicts with your life. like right now I'm studying a degree, right now I'm working part-time, right now I'm also setting up a business. And it's almost like, and I'm also training as an amateur athlete, and it's almost like I'm one person and I'm trying to sort of do the work of 1.5 people, and then on the other side I'm trying to do meditation practice 3 times a day, and then I also want to read religious philosophy and eat a sort of healthy vegetarian diet. I do actually want to convert to a vegan diet, or what I would call, I don't like the term vegan, but what I would call a 100% plant-based diet, purely because it's super healthy and we don't really need to be consuming large amounts of meat today, because we have access to tons and tons of plant-based protein. So it's unnecessary. It really is just a preference. So I think, the best idea, what I'm going with right now is I'm probably going to continue studying my degree. I'm going to continue working in my part-time job, and I'm going to continue building my business up. And the idea, what I'm hoping for, is that my business will eventually earn me enough money so that I can give up my part-time job. That will free up a lot of time. That will give me a lot more energy. And eventually, I will finish my degree in 2.5 years. And after I'm done with that, again, that's going to free up lots of time, time and energy. And basically, my idea is that I will just sort of keep doing a little bit of spiritual training, like meditation 3 times a day, continue reading religious philosophy, continue sort of simplifying and just sort of simplifying my life down. And the hope is at some point in the future I'll have a successful business. It'll be a digital business. I'll have my degree. I'll be out of the job that's not really fulfilling me. It's not really in alignment with the type of person that I am anymore. And my belief is in the future I will be able to combine these two things together in a much more balanced way. But that's what I'm going with right now. So that's really just something that I wanted to talk about. It's a bit of an unusual subject. When talking about spirituality to a rational population, it can be a tricky subject, but I believe it's sort of where it's not something like it's not a belief. To me, it's not a belief. Everybody has the capacity to be more spiritually aware, and it really has to do with the fact that it just depends on your level of conditioning. Is your body fit and healthy? Is your emotions stable and balanced? Is your mind sharp? Are you reading these religious philosophy books that actually trigger these hunches and epiphanies? You have these moments of a realization where you realize that, yeah, that actually makes sense. So I believe that everybody has capacity. Everyone has a spiritual side. It's just some people are more aware of it and others are less aware. It's sort of like you could say a conscious-unconscious continuum. And people who are more spiritually aware are just simply more towards the conscious end of the spectrum, whereas people who are less spiritually aware, in my opinion, are more towards the unconscious, instinctive side of the continuum. And the way that you become more conscious is by perfecting yourself. It's by reading religious philosophy, it's by doing meditations, by taking up things like yoga and tai chi and qigong, and doing these things that actually perfect your physiology, which change the biochemical process of your body, give you more energy, waken up the emotions, sharpen the mind, and then you start to perceive these new things, you start to become more aware of them. It's not like some sort of I'm not tricking myself. This is actually occurring inside of me. I'm experiencing this on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, one of the things I'm starting to become more in alignment with is the apex, the pivot point between these two things that I'm starting to become more aware of is your own innate human nature. And what I mean by this is if humans behave like humans, they don't behave like dogs, they don't behave like fish. You know, there's a structure within human DNA, there's a structure within the human nervous system, there's a structure within human physiology that allows humans to be humans. We express ourselves in a human's way, humans behave like humans basically. And I just believe there are two aspects of that, and one is that we're of the earth, and this is where personal achievement comes into play, and so we're also part of the universe, part of something much bigger, and this is where sort of spiritual achievement comes into play. And it's really trying to find, I believe that sort of human nature is really the apex where these two things meet in the middle. The more naturally you live, essentially the more you can achieve both spiritually and in the world, in my opinion. So yeah, that was it. I'm just going to get that off my chest. It's an interesting sort of idea. So yes, my name is Jason Ankin. This is my vlog channel. Like the video if you like it. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this on a regular basis. And again, if you have any similar experiences to what I'm talking about right now, let me know down below in the comments section. And again, I will be more than happy to start dialogue with you, because I would really like to sort of meet people on the internet who are having similar experiences or going through similar thought processes. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.